All right, we're live with another oil class. And what can I say? It's been a crazy week. So, I think the skincare I've been doing has been really noticeably helping diminish fine lines and wrinkles, keeping me from looking tired all the time. And I've done a lot with oils. That's what I've been primarily focused on with my skincare lately. So, I talked about galbanum. Was that 2 weeks ago or was that last week? I can't remember. Anyway, so that was super helpful. Today is oil share Friday or oil class Friday. And so I'll be teaching you some different things about oils each Friday at noon for a half hour. Little classes in session. And so today we're actually looking at the properties of Roman chamomile oil. Again, just for those of you that are new to this is not me selling a particular brand of oils, although I do have a preferred brand of oils because I feel that it is the purest on the market. But if you are interested in that, you'll have to DM me information about that and I can help you out that way. But primarily, I just want to share and teach about oils. Some of the books that I use are for sale on my website, and I will put those resources in at the end that we'll be looking at. But I just want you guys to get a better education of different things you can do with essential oils in your life to make things better for you, just to make life better. And so one of the oils that I have been incorporating this week, so what happened was skin was getting nice and clear, and then Mother Nature hit my monthly cycle, and this was strange. I broke out after my period. I feel like it was a very strong full moon. Excuse me one second. My mic is not in my right spot so you can hear me better. So it was a very strong full moon and my cycle started really early. And so I feel like it was after the because my cycle started so much earlier than the full moon, for whatever reason, it made my cycle last longer. And then I broke out afterwards instead of prior to. And in that time, it was pretty intense for me. I don't know about you guys, but it was pretty intense full moon for me this time. And as my face started to break out, I was like, I don't know what to do because whatever I've been doing with the galbanum and the myrrh and the yarrow palm doesn't seem to be counteracting the blemishes and the breakouts. And I felt like it was a lot stress related. And so I went for my calming skin oils. And one of them was Roman Chamomile, which we're going to be talking about today. And the other was neroli. So those were my two primary oils that I use. But we're going to be talking about Roman Chamomile today because it does a lot more than just calms the skin. But it did do a fantastic job of, I mean, I had some massive blemishes. You can still see maybe one right there, but it's super, you can look at my skin. It's getting really smooth and calm. And that is the neroli, the Roman chamomile, and then a blend of oils, an anti-aging blend that I use as well that also treats breakouts and whatnot. And then at night, before bed, I blended up, I used like a Castile type soap, like a very natural, pure organic one, and then liquid. And then I added to that some different oils. I added some geranium, Ravensara, um, laurel leaf, and eucalyptus. So these are more like invigorating oils, kind of bringing the blood to the skin a little bit. They're cooling. So again, they're going to go against they're anti-inflammation. They're just going to kind of cool and then clear out the inflammation. So every night I'm washing my face with this and palmarosa, which is kind of like a rose geranium oil, but not really strong on the rose because the oil that I use that is palmarosa is from the green part of the plant, the actual stems. And so it's very strong, powerful, healing oil. It goes against bruising and inflammation and stuff like that. So this is clearing my skin. And then right before I go to bed, I put blue tansy all over my face. It looks really blue. I look like I'm joining the Blue Man Group. And then my regular moisturizer, which I get from Soplicity, actually, my skin moisturizer for nighttime. And been waking up and doing the Roman Chamomile throughout the day on just the spots. I've not been wearing makeup until today, which I just have a little bit on. But you can see my face is really clearing up. This is, that's a mole. So that's not going anywhere. So everything else looks really clear. I mean, I was breaking out everywhere and the spots cleared up in just like a couple of days with this chamomile. So I want to share with you, without further ado, we have 23 minutes left to get through some vital information. And so I'm going to start today with, this is an herbal book, Rodale's Illustrated Encyclopedia of Herbs. I actually found this at a thrift store. So that was pretty lucky. So if you can find it on Amazon in the like secondhand section, you might find this has probably been updated with newer editions. This one's a little probably light compared to probably newer ones, but they start with a beautiful picture of a chamomile plant. So you can see here. Lovely. Yes. All right. So that's interesting. Let me check in really quick. Take a moment and see if any of you are piping in, chiming in on the comments. I don't want to miss anybody to say hello to. If you're chiming in, I would love to. I'm not seeing anything now. It's funny because sometimes when I use my phone to look for comments, it just doesn't show up for whatever reason until later. So we're going to start reading about chamomile here. I'm going to take my glasses off really quick because these are my distance glasses and I need my reading glasses for this. Chamomile has remained one of the world's best loved herbs. Many believe it can cure almost anything. One of the reasons for that, they have Germans have a phrase to describe it, alles zutraut, which means capable of anything. So apparently when they planted chamomile next to other plants, it actually helped the other plants to grow. I learned that this week, which is very interesting. But the secret to chamomile's medicinal wizardry lies in volatile oil derived from the flowers. Extracts of the plant or the oil itself have three primary uses: as anti-inflammatories for various afflictions of the skin and mucous membranes, as antispasmodics for treating ailments like indigestion and menstrual cramps, and as anti-infectives for numerous minor illnesses. Ointments, lotions, vapor baths, inhalations, and the like can be made with chamomile extract. So when at the end, I will put this in the show notes, a link to buy it on Amazon so that you can purchase a copy if you'd like. This is what I would say is the most interesting thing, because this is an herbal book, so you're not looking specifically at oils, but this little note here really caught my eye. It's in a herbal book. It said, while numerous scientific studies have proven the effectiveness of chamomile in other applications, its highly touted tea does not measure up as wondrously in research as its reputation would suggest. So a lot of people drink chamomile tea. A lot of herbalists recommend chamomile tea. And there may be scientific evidence behind the use of chamomile tea, and it may just have been that there's not enough money in the research or the study. But to have an herbalist book say the tea is not measuring up to the tinctures, perhaps, or the oils, is kind of a big recommendation for the oil, I would say, because you just don't find that often where the herbalist people will point you to the oil. And this one specifically says pharmacol- pharma- pharmaconostic Gnosist. Pharmacognostist. That's a new word for me. Vero Tyler, PhD, writing in The Honest Herbal, stated that most of the beneficial effects of chamomile are derived from its oil. So there you go. Even a strong tea steeped a long time in a covered pot contains only a small percentage of the vital oil. Nevertheless, he said, many herbalists staunchly believe that if the tea is used over a long period of time, beneficial effects may accumulate. So we're talking may, might, maybe, but they're really talking about the oil here, which is a really fascinating thing. But here's another thing about chamomile. The chamomile are not without some slightly unfavorable characteristics because the flowers contain pollen. Tea made from either type of chamomile, German or Roman, may cause contact dermatitis or other allergic reactions. So here it is, so wonderful for the skin, but if you're bathing your skin in a chamomile tea or using chamomile tea like poultice or something from the flowers that have the pollen, and you have a pollen allergy or a pollen sensitivity, what can happen then is that it could cause actually more irritation or aggravation to the skin. So that's very interesting, right? And then I will read again. It says that people who have known sensitivities to ragweed, chrysanthemums, or other members of the Compositae family, which is what this is from, should be cautious about drinking the tea. So even drinking the tea can start to cause flare-ups and problems for people that are sensitive. So I wanted to read you that to start out, just to point out that it is the oil, and for the reason that apparently the flower itself only contains I read this 0.5 to about 1.5% of the oil. So going for the oil as opposed to getting just chamomile tea flowers, you're going to have almost 100 times the potency. And what they're finding in different research studies is that potency is where they're seeing results that are significant in different various medical studies about the plant. So this talks a little bit more about German chamomile, but since we're focused on Russian today, we will get right into it. My next book is The Essential Oils and Aromatherapy Workbook. This is for sale on my website, I believe. I think I've got it up there. It's Marcel Leboeuf, who is long considered the godfather or the founding father of essential oils. He's got another picture of your chamomile plant growing in the wild, what it looks like. Beautiful. And he's talking about the various types of chamomile, but again mentions that the chamomile is primarily produced in France, Morocco, Spain, and Egypt. The essential oil is distilled from the flowers. So it is the flowers where you get the oil, but the oil is in a very small concentration in the flowers. So it's distilling the oil or extracting the oil is where, or even creating a tincture from the flowers is going to give you more probably of the oil, the actual active ingredient that has this healing property. The interesting thing about the oil is that German chamomile is like a light blue, and the blue chamomile is a dark blue, containing a presence of something called azulene. So that's kind of interesting, because the flowers are white, so white and yellow. So it's interesting to find that the oil has actually a bluer color. Yes. So there are differences between German. Again, they want to go into the various differences between German and Roman. The Roman, it tends to have more of the medicinal properties, and that's why people tend towards the German oils, or excuse me, the Roman oils, the Roman chamomile. Roman chamomile is an excellent calming and soothing essential oil and liver stimulant. It says here. And so we're talking about liver stimulants going to help you detox. And if you're having emotional flare ups, a lot of times it is some toxicity in the liver that can affect emotions. And so having a liver stimulant will calm you down. And that's part of the reason, likely, I would think, that Roman chamomile is so powerful for that. Here is next book, Modern Essential Handbook. This one is one of my primary go-to books, and I also have the latest version of this for sale on my website. We have a picture here again of the beautiful chamomile flowers, so you can see. And we're going to be looking at this one specifically on Roman chamomile, which is nice. The extraction method is steam distillation from the flowers, is how they come upon it. Its primary uses in here suggest bee and hornet stings, calming effects, club foot. I don't know what it would do for that, but that's interesting to know. Dysentery, hyperactivity, insomnia, menopause, muscle spasms, neuralgia, neuritis, parasites, rashes, sciatica, shock, skin, dry skin, and sore nipples. So if you're nursing, you might want to put some of this on there, and that'll help you out a bit. The properties are anti-infectious, anti-inflammatory, anti-parasitic, anti-spasmodic, calming, and relaxing. So this is a fantastic oil for a variety of uses. Historically, it was traditionally used by the ancient Romans to give them a clear mind and to empower them with courage for their battles. Ooh. I think the whole world needs that right now. We need more courage in our battles. According to Roberta Wilson, in quotes, chamomile was nicknamed the plant's physician because it supposedly cured any ailing plants placed near it. I mentioned that at the beginning. Isn't that interesting? So it can be very healing plant. Other possible uses mentioned here are that chamomile neutralizes allergies and increases the ability of the skin to regenerate. It is a cleanser of the blood and also helps the liver reject poisons and discharge them. This oil may help with allergies, bruises, cuts, depression, insomnia, etc., etc., etc. So you might want to buy this book to find out more about what they have to say about Roman chamomile, as far as chemical constituents, etc. Again, it's the oil that's going to help with the seasonal allergies and things that they recommend it for. Using the flower, again, could actually aggravate those. So we don't want to aggravate that. Chamomile is mild enough to use on infants and children. For centuries, mothers have used chamomile to calm crying children, ease earaches, fight fever, soothe stomach aches and colic, and relieve toothaches and teething pain. It can safely and effectively reduce irritability and minimize nervousness in children, especially hyperactive children. So this is really fantastic. It helps with emotional balance, nervous system, and the skin are the primary uses. And that was from Modern Essentials. Again, at the end, I will link that in the show notes. And the last book that I'm going to read from about some of these benefits, we got 10 minutes left here. I'm going to try to stay on time today. For those of you on your lunch break joining me to learn about oils, we're going to go with what I call the Bored Housewives. The Bored Housewives Book of Essential Oils. Why do I call it that? Because it just has this kind of silly, cheesy cover with a butterfly miracles with essential oils. But it's actually a really fantastic book. So I do highly recommend you get the Blue Butterfly Board Housewives book. Um, um, it, uh, they're talking about Roman chamomile. They say the therapeutic properties are calmative, analgesic, antibiotic, anti-inflammatory, immune stimulant. It has an affinity for the reproductive system, the nervous system, digestive system, spleen meridian, bladder meridian, yin energy, which is that feminine energy, softer, calming, and throat chakra. So for speaking publicly, and remember, it has that bluish thing, and blue is coordinated with throat chakra, so it's very interesting to note. They often talk about the spiritual aspects of certain oils, and so I'm going to read from what they say about the spiritual aspects. You can buy the book to get more information on Roman chamomile. Again, this is available for sale on the sovereignmom.com website, and I will link that in the show notes. Emotional, spiritual, mental aspects. Roman chamomile or chamomile Roman smooths the flow of the chi energy throughout the body. It is this regulation of vital energy that makes chamomile Roman so powerfully soothing to both physical and emotional conditions. In fact, so powerfully does this oil unravel the negative emotions behind physical ailments that it is sometimes hard to tell if it is working at an emotional or a physical level. Chamomile Roman or Roman chamomile is a great benefit in the treatment of chronic headaches, insomnia, nervous indigestion, and nausea, and irritable bowel syndrome, just to name a few. The smoothing out of the vital energy prevents the buildup of energetic heat, so it is going to help cool the body. Which manifests in the body as inflammation. This chamomile is particularly beneficial for alleviating neuritis, cystitis, rheumatoid arthritis, and earache. So all the itis is the infection. One of the outstanding uses of Roman chamomile essential oil is for babies with colic, babies who startle awake and then cry for a long time, and infants that are just plain fussy and want to be held and comforted most of the day and night. So that's beautiful. So we're talking about yin female energy with this. On physical aspects, I will note it says Roman chamomile cleanses the blood and reduces allergic reactions. Allergy sufferers can find a great deal of relief by carrying an inhaler or just a few drops of this oil on a tissue or cotton ball. Roman chamomile is an antihistamine and soothing to inflamed tissues. So again, this book's available. It'll be in the show notes. You can find out. There's a lot more information. I'm just trying to hit the highlights as quickly as we can. And then we're going to jump to an actual little medical study page that I located here. And hopefully you find interesting. Let me zoom in a smidge. Boop, boop, boop. All right. So here we go. We are talking about Roman chamomile. And what I found was National Library of Medicine, NIH, has a study, not a study, but maybe an overview, I would call it, chamomile and urban medicine of the past with a bright future. And so they're talking about the various uses of chamomile in medical research that has been done on it. Now I will apply my glasses. So they're talking about so many things that you can do with chamomile. It's one of the oldest, most widely used and well-documented medicinal plants in the world and has been recommended for a variety of healing applications. Chamomile is a native of the Old World and is a member of the daisy family. The hollow, bright gold cones of the flowers are packed with disc or tubular florets and are ringed with about 15 white ray of ligulate florets, widely represented by two known varieties, your German and your Roman chamomile. So they looked at various medical studies. Some of the ones I found interesting were, they're talking about uses. This was one of them, the anti-cancer activity that they found in one study. Of course, they need to do more studies to prove that this is, uh, viable. But they said in anti-cancer activity here, and I will link this article in the show notes. You can read because obviously there's pages and pages of various medical studies you can look at with all of this and everything. Most evaluations of tumor growth inhibition by chamomile involve studies with apigenin, which is one of the bioactive constituents of chamomile. Studies on preclinical models of skin, prostate, breast, and ovarian cancer have shown promising growth inhibitory effects. In a recent study, chamomile extracts were shown to cause minimal growth inhibitory effects on normal cells, but showed significant reduction in cell viability in various human cancer cell lines. Chamomile exposure induced apoptosis in cancer cells, that's cellular death, but not in normal cells at similar doses. Apoptosis, that's cell death, so it's creating that in the cancer cells, but leaving the normal cells alone and healthy. This is awesome, right? The efficacy of the novel agent TBS 101, a mixture of seven standard botanical extracts, including chamomile, has been recently tested. The results confirm it to have a good safety profile with significant anti-cancer activities against androgen refractory human prostate cancer, PC3 cells, both in vitro and in vivo situation. And they have the notes to where you can look up that study and find out how they were using it. So you want to probably check this out. And again, I will provide this article for you in the show notes so you can look it over and then go in and click on the links to those studies to find out how to use these for what you need them for. What I find here is they did not put further research is needed to confirm findings, which they do with a lot of things. And I want to say something about that quickly or briefly here is that what we notice in a lot of things is when they are conservative, right? Because they have maybe findings that are not completely accurate or conflicting research. And I wanted to point this out today because like with common cold, it says, however, further research is needed to confirm these findings. With cardiovascular conditions, it says a large, well-designed, randomized control trial is needed to assess the potential value of chamomile. So you want to see this is normal from NIH, from FDA, from CDC at evaluating things with caution. Further research for eczema is needed to evaluate. So they have the studies that say this, that, and the other. All the studies up till now showed this, but further research is needed. So they're very, with gastrointestinal conditions, it does not have that warning or that indication, that caution. But I wanted to point this out as we're looking at this medical study because when I looked at the beginning of COVID with the masks, they were recommending masks to do certain things medically. And when I looked at the research, there was not the findings to the couple of studies that they had that supported mask usage. And I'm just looking at this because we're looking at a medical study and we don't do this very often, or something printed in the NIH, a medical review in a clinical use. For doctors to look at, whatever, that one of the reasons, like a big red flag for me when I was going over a lot of stuff with, how do I say, when I was looking over the research with all of the COVID stuff, was that the CDC would say something and then their claims were not backed up by the papers that they were citing, or they were contradicted by most of the papers. And then you go to Cochrane. Cochrane Group is an independent collective of researchers that look over all the bodies of medicine. And they talk about how the studies are done and whether they have holes in them, whether they're good studies, whether they're weak. And from the very beginning, there was a guy from Oxford Center for Evidence-Based Medicine or Evidence-Based Research, and there was a guy from Cochrane, both interviewed at the same time on Unheard. And these are the two experts of the experts of the experts. These are not just, I did a study. I looked over all the research, all the data, and all the studies, and I cannot find the the substantiation of the recommendation of masks. And that the good science, they said, not the good science. When he asked the one guy about whether there is science to back up mask use, and he said, not good science. And these are the guys that would know. Like, these are the guys that everyone in the world depends on to know this, and said no. And yet the CDC pushed masks as almost as a cure for COVID, not a cure, but a preventative, almost like the mask was like a vaccine that was going to save lives and do all this. And if masks really did that for respiratory virus, slow the spread, prevent transmission, etc., a clinical setting, they've been studying masks in clinical settings for decades. And they would have been used. They would have been used, like every nurse in every hospital with people coming in with colds and flus would have been wearing a mask for all this time if that's what worked to prevent that. But because they could not find the data, and they looked hard for something to protect people that work in hospitals for 20 years, 30 years, and they couldn't find it. And so this is why up until now, this was not recommended as standard practice for the prevention of respiratory viruses, because it's just not there. When it comes to why doctors mask up in surgery, it has more to do with blood splatter and spit secretions with bacteria. And so they did not want that going into an open wound. And this is not this. So this is why they were always used in surgery. It is not respiratory viruses, not ever used for that. Even N95, a respiratory virus, is much smaller than the holes in an N95. And the way they are aerosoled, from what I've understood from talks from Pierre Corey and some other people, I'm trying to think of the evolutionary biologist guy who was talking about how it's about concentration in a confined area that the aerosolized viruses spread. This is according to them. You don't have to acknowledge that or believe that or whatever, but I'm just saying this is what they're saying about how respiratory viruses are spread. So it's interesting that they have all of these disclaimers with various things that have been researched, and there's good research, but they feel like it's not quite enough to recommend it for that. Specifically, you could try it, but they're not going to suggest, recommend, prescribe, or treat, or recommend treatment of those things in the NIH. But when it came to masks, it was like cloth masks. There's all kinds of evidence that cloth masks are actually could be more harm than good. And so, and they say that in the studies that it's a concern. And so this is one of those areas where they just allowed anyone to say that this mask to protect from COVID, and you could make masks yourself at home and sell them as a preventative measure. And that would never be allowed at any time in history to make those kinds of claims, medical kinds of claims about something. And so I know I've gone over a little bit, but it was just because as I'm reading through this medical study, I wanted to show you guys how careful they are about, here's another condition, inflammatory conditions. Chamomile is used to treat mild skin irritations and sunburn, rashes, sores, even eye inflammation. But its value in treating these conditions has not been shown with evidence-based research. So it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It just means that they don't have enough research, or they haven't spent the money on the research to prove it yet. And these are the things that a medical evaluation or a clear medical critical study will tell you. And we did not see that from the CDC. And ICANN recently requested for FOIA requests for several claims. I want to say there were 4 major claims on the CDC website regarding COVID, that they were just making claims. It said facts about COVID. And so ICANN sued for FOIA requests, filed for FOIA requests for the information that backed up those claims about facts about COVID on the CDC website. And as it turns out, the CDC said we have no documents to back these claims. They're the fact checkers, right? So now ICANN's the fact checkers of the fact checkers. They're stating these statements of fact, but they have no data to back their claims according to their own research. It's very fascinating. Anyway, I've gone over by 6 minutes. I would love for you guys to get in on these calls every Friday to get more information, and check out my website, thesovereignmom.com. And under Shop TSM, you'll find a lot of books and resources about this. If you're interested in purchasing oils and you're not sure where to start, get in my DM and contact me directly. And if you are interested in just information about life and love and boundaries and finding out more about what I do and offer, which is a lot more stuff about emotions and boundaries and having healthy, wonderful relationships, almost exclusively harmonious, loving relationships, you want to check out my class on Say Yes to Boundaries. It's free right now in a very raw, rough draft script form in my blog on my Substack, which is thesovereignmom.substack.com. And I will see you next Friday with more oily information. I don't know what we'll be talking about next week. Maybe we'll do neroli. Yeah, let's do neroli, since I'm having such lovely effects on my skin with the chamomile neroli combo, and I'm brightening up and aging, reversing, and whatnot. There's so many more applications on this here that, wait, that's not what I meant to do. Here, hold on. There are so many more applications for, hello. There are so many more applications for oils that are in that particular NIH page study. So please check out the show notes when we're done and go through, and you can find out a lot more information about Roman chamomile. Love you guys, and have an awesome, fabulous Freedom Friday and a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week. Bye.